Cerise and welcome back. At the beginning of May this year, I flew to Rome for a few days to meet a good friend from Germany. It was cheaper for us both to meet in a foreign city than take the train and meet up in either Berlin or Vienna. I left the house at 4 a.m. to go to the airport, and the plane arrived in Rome at 9 a.m. I missed the train to the city by a few seconds because the line in front of the ticket machine was so long, hence my slightly unamused face. We deposited my luggage in the Airbnb and then started off to lose ourselves in the city and its small labyrinth of streets and shops, and of course, their ice cream shops. It was a warm and sunny day in May, and the sights we saw were perfect postcard views. We ate pasta in a small shop for lunch and visited vintage shops which were nestled in the narrow streets before we unintentionally ended up at the Colosseum. History time! Rome, the Eternal City. I could talk weeks and probably only scratch the surface. The city was founded in 753 BC by Romulus and his twin brother Remus on the site where they were suckled by a she-wolf as orphan infants. But that is a complete myth. Rome was probably founded between the 9th and 8th century BC. She was first a kingdom, then a republic, and afterwards an empire. Rome had its largest expansion in 117 AD during the time of the Emperor Trajan, encompassing an area of 5 million square kilometers or 1.9 million square miles. Around 475 AD, the western part of the Roman Empire fell, but the eastern part would remain until the fall of Constantinople in 1453. Between the 8th and 11th century, the city was attacked by Normans, Langobards, and Saracens until she was just a shadow of her former glory. Rome was relatively irrelevant until the High Middle Ages, when the papacy would gain considerable influence. She was a center of artistic and cultural influence again, until 1527, when Karl V sacked Rome. During the early modern period, the city flourished again. She was later annexed by Napoleon and was part of the First French Empire from 1793 to 1814. In 1861, Victor Emmanuel II became the first king of an independent and united Italy, with Turin as the first capital city. Rome followed as capital city 10 years later. During the First and Second World War, the city was bombed several times. In 1946, she became the capital of the newly established Italian Republic. My friend and I had both been to the Colosseum, so we just strolled around the outside. The Colosseum was built between 72 and 80 AD and used for public games, often in conjunction with Roman religious festivals. Afterwards, we walked past Palatine Hill, now an open-air museum, and one of the most ancient parts of the city. I think I spent more than 4 hours there the last time I was in Rome back in February 2020, which seems like eons ago now. And I would have loved to spend another 4 hours there, but we did not have the time for that. Afterwards, we walked to and all the way up to the Altare della Patria, also called Il Vittoriano. It was built between 1885 and 1935 in honor of Victor Emmanuel II, the first king of a unified Italy. It is a magnificent neoclassical building with a wonderful view over the city. After a bomb attack in 1969, with luckily no casualties, the monument was closed for the public and only reopened in 2000. Afterwards, we strolled through the city and landed in front of the Pantheon, but the queue was just so long that we decided to not go inside. Yeah, that's the queue. Plus, I had already seen it the last time, and we went for dinner instead. We had bruschetta, wine, and I had a Parmigiano pizza, and it was just so good. After dinner, we took a walk and briefly popped into two churches. The first was San Luigi dei Francesi, a Baroque and French national church built between 1518 and 1589, famous for its Caravaggio paintings. The second church was the Basilica San Eustachio in Campano Marzio, probably built in the 8th century, then rebuilt in the 17th and 18th century in a new Roman Baroque style. We took the bus back to the Airbnb and fell into bed. At that time, I was already awake for 19 hours and had walked more than 26,000 steps, and I was exhausted. The next day we got up at 7 a.m. because we had tickets for the Vatican Museum at 9 a.m. The first museum we went to was the Art Gallery, and it was so amazing, and I think we spent most of the time in there. The tour to the Sixtine Chapel was horrible though. There were just so many people shoving and pushing, and I really hated being in such a maelstrom. I did not see a lot of the Egyptian exhibition, the Borgia apartments, not really anything on the way to the Sixtine Chapel. The latter was smaller than I expected, including the frescoes, but it was still very impressive. There were guards shushing the people every 5 minutes or scolding them when they took pictures, and it was prohibited. There is a VIP tour of the Vatican in the morning or after closing for triple the price of the normal entrance fee, but I think it would be worth the price for me. After the museum, we strolled a bit in the gardens, but the weather was almost 30 degrees Celsius, and we were just too hot and sweaty to really sit down and enjoy it. We left the Vatican for the nearest cafe, and I had to drink 3 Coca-Cola until I felt like a human again. The heat and the people had drained my energy level to a minimum. We later found out that we had missed some museums like the Carriage Pavilion and the Ethnological Museum Anima Mundi, but I planned to return to the museum anyway. We took the bus from the Vatican and rode back to the inner city of Rome. We walked to the Piazza Navona, past the Pantheon again with its really long queue, and went for dinner. This time I had bruschetta, sausages with rosemary potatoes, and it was so good. Then we went to the Trevi Fountain, which was built in the 18th century and is the largest Baroque fountain and one of the most famous fountains in the world. Got pushed around even more, then went to the next bus station to go back to the Airbnb. What happened the next day was like a story straight out of a Dan Brown book, but let me tell you the whole tale. It all started the day before. Over dinner we decided to go to St. Peter's Basilica the next day early in the morning. When we came to the Vatican, it was already full with people, but everyone held a yellow paper in their hands. We were a bit confused, but decided to push on and went through the ticket check, and nobody checked our ticket. Suddenly we stood at St. Peter's Square and realized we sneaked into the general audience and would actually see the Pope. And here it is! It was bizarre. He was celebrated like a pop star, he kissed and blessed children that were handed to him, and people couldn't stop cheering. The audience took about 90 minutes and was held in a few different languages, and I remember hearing German, English, French, Italian, Spanish, Portuguese, probably Polish, and Arabic. In the end, we met the Pope but didn't manage to go to St. Peter's Basilica. We left and had lunch, and then my friend had to leave to pack her belongings as her flight was in a few hours. I went to Castel di San Angelo but decided to not enter and visit the museum another time, over the bridge, and then walked on my own back to the Airbnb. It took me ages. I passed Piazza Navona with its wonderful fountains, saw the Obelisco della Minerva by Bernini, which was erected in 1677. I got the metro ticket from my friend, we said our goodbyes, and she left to go to the airport. I took the metro to the Piazza del Popolo. It was revamped between 1811 and 1822 in a neoclassical style, with the Obelisco Flaminio in the middle and the twin churches Santa Maria in Montesando on the left and Santa Maria dei Miracoli on the right, and 2 fountains, one with Neptune and the other one with Roma, a kind of personified City of Rome deity. Went to the Spanish Stairs, which had those beautiful pink flowers, ate a pizza with spicy sausage for dinner, and then took the bus back again. My flight was at 7 a.m. and I left Rome at 4:40 in the morning to go to the airport. The air was still warm and there was no soul around, which was almost creepy after the last couple of days. It was such a wonderful trip and I can't wait to go back to Rome again and maybe finally go to see St. Peter's Basilica. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my small trip to Rome as much as I did. My next big trip will be an Interrail tour from Amsterdam to Sevilla in July and August. Follow me on social media to be updated on where I am, and support me on Patreon starting for just €1 a month to see more exclusive posts. Have a great day and see you next time. Bye!